Hello, everybody. My name is Tanya Sadowski. I am the program coordinator for the Global Engagement Department here at the Community Solution Education System. Welcome to International Education Week 2024. Just before we get into our incredible student panel today, I want to give you a little overview of what International Education Week is and highlight our upcoming events this week as well. So International Education Week is a joint initiative of the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Department of Education to promote and celebrate the benefits of international education and exchange worldwide in an effort to promote programs that prepare Americans for a global environment. It's all about expanding horizons, making connections, and establishing mutual understanding between people in the United States and other countries. The Community Solution Education System participates annually in this important initiative by featuring globally focused events throughout the week. With that said, here's what we have coming up this week. I'm going to share my screen. Awesome. So as you all know, since you are here, today we do have an incredible International Alumni Career Panel from the Chicago School where they will be sharing their experience working in the U.S. after graduation. The alumni are graduates of several Chicago School academic programs and campuses, and their experiences range from optional practical training, OPT, to the STEM extension and sponsorship for the H-1B visa. Tomorrow, Tuesday, November 19th, we have a spotlight on Tanzania. Pamoja Leo, which is Swahili for Together Today, founder, shares her incredible story of starting an NGO in Tanga, Tanzania, and that empowers women, saves children from orphanages, and she started a school and a baby project too, which actually prevents infants from ending up in orphanages by providing support to families. On Wednesday, November 20th, it's O Canada. Hear from a panel of students from Canada who are studying on our campuses and what their experiences are like studying in the US. And you will also hear from our Canadian International Liaison Officer about the amazing possibilities of studying abroad in Canada and all that that country has to offer. On Thursday, we are excited to have our final Education Beyond Borders 2025 South Korea information session. Education Beyond Borders, South Korea bridges health, technology, and cultural horizons in Seoul, South Korea. That is taking place next spring. And students from a variety of disciplines and institutions throughout the Community Solution are invited to join us in South Korea. If you want more information about that program, please do join us on Thursday. And finally, on Friday, we have a panel, a study abroad panel of students who've recently completed a study abroad program, either in South Africa, Germany, and Brazil. You get to hear about their experiences and what it meant to them to have this opportunity. The panel also includes our international liaisons from South Africa and Germany. And finally, we have a photo contest that all of you are invited to participate in. If you have any photos from your international travels, it doesn't have to be for a study abroad program, but for any international travel that you have gone on, any experiences that you want to share, please, please, please feel free to submit your photos. I will put the link to that in the chat. Please feel free to join us, and whoever gets the most votes on their photo gets a cool little prize. So that is all I have for this International Education Week kickoff. We're very excited for all of our upcoming events, and we're going to kick it off right now with the Chicago School International Alumni Career Panel. And I will go ahead and pass that over to Charlene. Charlene, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you so much. I am so excited to see so many familiar faces, both current students and those that have graduated, and new faces as well. So for any of you that do not know me, I am Charlene Higgins. I am the Assistant Director for Student Success working in the Office of Global Engagement. And I'm also here with Bridget Flaherty, who is our Director of Global Engagement in our office. And outside of our office, we also have some friends from Career Services. Alka, if you want to do a quick little introduction for your team.
Sure. Hi, my name is Elke Hart. I'm the Assistant Director for Career Services, and just really excited to be a part of this panel today. And thank you, panelists, for joining us to share your experiences with our current students. I've got James here as well, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm James. I'm a coordinator of career services, and I'm on the Chicago campus.
Awesome. Thank you. So a little bit about the format for what we're gonna do. So I will turn it over and call on each one of our panelists, who we're very grateful to have here, to do a quick little intro. We know that that is the reason you are here, it is to hear from them. And then I will ask just some follow-up questions about their experiences and advice and things like that. And then I'll turn it over to the participants in the room to ask any questions that you have. So think about those, and I'm sure you will have them, and I hope you feel empowered to ask them or put them in the chat. So to kick us off, for each of our panelists, just a quick intro, your name, what status you're currently in, and what your program and campus was that you graduated in. Let's start. I'm going to go in the order of my screen to stay organized. So Samchart, do you want to start?
Yes. Hi, my name is Samchart. So I'm originally from Thailand. I was at Chicago campus. So I graduated with a master first, and then I came back for a PhD program in applied behavior analysis, or ABA. So right now I'm working as a board certified behavior analyst, or BCBA, at educational cooperative in Highland Park, Illinois. And now I am on the H-1B CAP exam.
And I actually thought of one more thing that I think to kick us off from the start, we can ask. And then one piece of advice that you either wish you knew at the start of your job search, or just that you have for the other students in the room here.
For me, just keep searching for information. Make sure you have reliable source.
Great, thank you. Next, Luna, do you want to introduce the same pieces?
Sure. So hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So my name is Luna. I go by Luna, but my legal name is actually Xiaoyan Lu. So my home country is mainland China. I got my master's degree from the Chicago School in 2015. And then I came back. I'm currently in my PsyD program for applied clinical psychology. I'm actually in my dissertation defense stage already, like almost there, final stretches. Right now, I'm also on my H-1B visa that I work at a community nonprofit here in Orange County, California. And one piece of advice, I would say networking, build connections with folks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next, Anvita. Oh, I think you just muted again.
Sorry. Hi.
I think your audio's, we can move on if you want to try to, it's kind of going out quite a bit. Is everybody having that? Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. So, hi, Lisa. This is my
I think
master's in working still.
it's kind of going in and out. If you want to, we can move on to Kavya, and then if you want to see if they're, we can come back to you.
Hello, I'm Kavya Kurlapati, and I graduated from the MA Forensic Psychology program in August 2024. So not that long ago. It's still very much fresh in my head. So it was only 4 months ago that I graduated. I moved here 2 years ago for my master's from Bangalore, India. And currently I'm working as a mental health clinician at Heartland Human Care Services. So I work with immigrant children. I am currently on my 1-year EAD OPT period. Hopefully that changes next year. Not sure yet. But I think one piece of advice for job search would be also networking. I think having good connections is very helpful, but also not settling for something that you don't want. A position that you truly want is out there, and I feel like looking in the right places is very helpful.
Yeah, that's great advice. Anvita, let's see if your audio is better.
This better now?
I think, yeah, let's keep, I think it
Is it
starts and then it kind of goes out, but let's see.
Okay, so sorry about that.
No
But
worries.
yeah, I'm an international student from India. I graduated with a master's in industrial and organizational psychology from the Chicago campus in 2022. Currently, I'm on my STEM OPT, hoping that again that changes next year. And one advice that I would give all international students, uh, don't don't apply for like don't ap- I know it's easier said than done, but apply for quality than quantity. Be strategic, be organized, be patient because patience goes a long way. Networking as well, very important. And yeah, I think that's it.
Great, thank you. I'm going to ask some questions. I think that I'll just open it up for any of the four of you that feel like you have experience and you want to respond to. And if it's more than one, that's fine. And then I might have some specific questions just for individuals as well. So to get started, I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about how you navigated some of the work authorization requirements or questions around what your visa status is and restrictions around that while engaging in your job search. Anyone?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can maybe
Great.
share. Yeah. I feel like most companies don't know that you're international students. I think being open and honest about that is very important because sometimes you go in, give that interview, and they're still not aware that you're an international student, and then they come back, and then you later tell them that you're an international student. And that's when it gets a little bit more complicated, and there's a chance of not getting the position itself. So I feel like being upfront about it from the very beginning is important. And also there are positions out there that do sponsor, even though it's a little bit expensive, but I feel like looking for that position is helpful and looking in the right places also.
Great, thanks. Anybody else?
Yeah, going off of Kavya, like she said, just be as honest. Sometimes being honest goes a long way. There are people who would suggest, like in your application, like don't mention that you're an international student. Don't do that. Be honest because you rather not get selected in that stage than going through the whole thing and then be like, oops, sorry, you're international and now nothing can be done. That hurts a lot more. So like she said, be honest. Be familiar. The USCIS website is there, so you understand what your requirements are. Follow the USCIS website and keep in touch with your DSO. I think they're the most helpful people. They know everything. Sometimes the website can be confusing. So in terms of like understanding visa restrictions, what they are, work authorizations, be in touch with your DSO. And there are government resources available that kind of assist you with which companies sponsor, how many sponsorships they have done, how many rejections, how many acceptances. So if you just go look at those websites, I don't know how often they update it, but you can always like look at those websites and get all your information.
Yeah, and that's a good plug for Going Global, which is the platform that Career Services has. I don't know if Alka, you want to put the link in the chat or anything, but if anybody's not using that, it's a great, I hope it's not too hidden, but it is like a hidden gem or at least just a gem, but it has a lot of information on employers and who sponsor different visas and things like that as well. So I'm wondering, I know that Samchart and Xiaoyan, you have kind of like a different path to your current employment, a little bit different than the standard OPT F1 status authorization. I think the room would also love to hear just a little bit about that journey to glean from it. Samchart, do you want to just share a little bit about what that looked like for you? And yeah, I think others will be interested to learn from that.
Sure. So yes, I did a lot of research at the beginning. So again, so that's why I mentioned like make sure you find reliable source. So I sent a lot of emails to immigration lawyer website, and you can utilize free an hour consultation to gather information there. So I had a lot of email back and forth with a lawyer, and I did not pay anything. So that would be my advice. Make sure you know requirements, make sure like there are a lot of options. It is not just H1B, H1B cap exam. There are many options that you can go to. So I used that, and then they suggested me to like, yeah, so this route would be easier. And I was just like, okay, thank you so much. And then I move on to the next one. And just yes. Like other people mentioned, being honest, being transparent to your potential employers is important. Another thing that I found that it is helpful for me is tell them like, yes, if you want to go this route, so there are some costs. Make sure you have resources. So both time, so they have to hire a lawyer. There are a lot of fees that you have to pay. So I also tell them upfront at the like first interview that I have. So I normally say it at the at the end of the interview, so it doesn't look like, okay, I'm here only for visa. So that's why I just want them to know me more, and then I keep it until the end. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and I think, everyone's sharing a lot of great suggestions as well. I want to just piggyback on the reason why at the very beginning I emphasize on the networking is that's actually how I landed my current position. I actually also on the H1B CAP exam, but my journey is a little bit different. When I first graduated from the master's program, I went on the very traditional route, trying to look for a job and everything, being upfront and honest in all those interviews. And sadly, because it's also, I think, 2015, right? A while ago. So sadly, the reality I had back then was like most of the interviewers, they will tell me, you're a very strong candidate. We would love to have you once your immigration status changed. I'm like, you guys are not helping, right? So I actually went a little bit unconventional route back then. I just went and interviewed without actually saying anything. Because I still have a few months of OPT left. I just want to see, if it's just me or is this the legal status situation, right? So I went in there, have the interview. The next day, they're like, when can you start working? So I start working the same week, actually. And then after a few months, I can tell, I'm getting really good reviews from my supervisors. I actually reach out to them. They're like, we want to keep you for another school year because I was working in the school system. And I actually mentioned, I was like, I have this visa issue. Do you think you guys can support me on that? They're actually fully on board. However, with that situation is because the timeline we're looking at is a bit tricky. We all know they have the timeline and stuff. So I end up actually not with that employer and I went off on my doctorate degree. But in that process, I know just going blindly into an interview, and I know, some shall say like you can ask those questions. It still can be very frustrating, right? So I actually, when I started my doctor program, a lot of work I do is I really emphasize on networking, knowing the people or going to some potential organizations and network that potentially they might be interested in hire someone like you and really build that connection. So the way I land my current job is actually, it was through one of the alumni too. She used to volunteer at my current position and then she got hired. And so I know they have this whole process set up already. So I asked her, it was like, is it possible that you think your organization would like to have someone like me? And then she made a referral. I meet with the leader of the organization. The conversation went really well. But back then, I didn't know that this position potentially can be qualified for the exam. So I actually went on H1B visa, the lottery system, for 3 years in a row, and I didn't get 3 years in a row. To the point we realized we can't keep wasting the time here. Then we talked to different immigration attorney. I think that's when, a good immigration attorney really help. And she actually pointed out to me, she's like, you do know you might be able to qualify for the exam. And I was like, I know the traditional criteria for the exam, but there's something that we don't know. As good immigration attorneys, they do know. So they actually help us to set up the whole stuff. So this organization will be able to sponsor just for my H1B exam, and then we get expedited. So I was able to start working even before I officially got my degree, because I've been involving with them kind of on a volunteer basis too. So they see my value. They're really willing to invest in me. That's why I want to circle back, is like building a relationship, demonstrate your value to the organization really speaks volume at the end of the day, because you are asking those organizations to invest in you. It's not cheap. They can hire someone, U.S. citizen, right, with even maybe cheaper rate without those extra fee. But you have to demonstrate your value. So you have to build that relationship with the organization leaders, and that will make the process a lot easier. That's definitely one thing I want to highlight.
Yeah, thank you both. And I think that you speaking of the lawyers, I just want to reiterate for everyone on the call, as far as our office and me and Bridget as DSOs, PDSO for Bridget, we cannot advise on H-1B statuses. We can only advise on F1 and J-1 statuses. And often if this is something that students are exploring or have questions about, we will, like you're saying, refer students to connect to a lawyer about their questions. But I really just wanted to ask you both to explain a little bit more, just to highlight, which I think was demonstrated, that there are a lot of different paths to similar or just not even similar, actually quite different in your individual career and professional goals here. So I think when we get to the Q&A part, they can definitely ask more questions about H-1B. I want to do a little bit of a shift and ask more around kind of just the job application experience in general, especially given international student statuses or experiences. And I think job search process can be tedious and tiring and sometimes discouraging for everyone. If this has not been the case for you, I am so happy that that has been your experience. But I think that is something that often happens, whether you're born in the United States or not. But of course, then with having an international student status, there are additional systems and restrictions to navigate, which can make it even more challenging. So I'm wondering just a little bit if any of you, maybe even Kavya and Anvita, back to you again with navigating that through as somebody still on an F1 status with OPT, how you stayed motivated through your job search, and how, you just kind of manage that process. I know somebody said keep going, and that was great advice. And just anything else that you want to share about what that experience was like for you.
I can like I said, like even Charlene said, keep going, and through like focus on self-care. It's really difficult to just like apply. It gets so exhausting and it gets so overwhelming. Not just the applications, but then there are so many resources out there. Everybody on social media is following this career advisor, that career advisor. There's so much advice. It's very relevant to seek advice related to your own field. I was in IO, still very niche, not a lot of people out there who are helping you with your career development. But there are some, if you need, if anybody on here is pursuing IO, if you need any career development resources, let me know. I can always connect you. I did a lot of research on LinkedIn, and I did find some really nice people for networking. So if anybody needs that list, I'm happy to help. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say.
I want to add one more thing, because when we say networking, I also want to expand the horizon in a way that it's not just traditionally, let's say you go out those networking events, those different professional associations. I think I want to add on, sometimes Facebook groups can be very helpful too. The story I just shared, I got the interview and the next day I get hired. It's actually on one of those clinicians Facebook group, like local Facebook group. Someone posted a job post, and then I reach out to that person via Facebook, and then I send in my resume, and then got an interview like right there. So those process can, you don't necessarily know that person per se, but it is a personal relationship as well. That will also help you to move a little bit faster, in that interview process compared to you just send in like online all the resumes, because all the resumes get compiled there. If any of you've been in the position of trying to interview someone, you will definitely understand, if someone hands you a resume, that will definitely take a lot more time and attention than you just go through all the list. So yeah, networking is definitely a broader sense that I want to highlight.
And I'm hearing persistence too in what you're saying.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on and say that having a good resume and also a cover letter is so important, and making sure the cover letter sort of aligns with the position that you're applying to, and highlighting the things that you like about that position in the cover letter. Is they read a cover letter, the people like maybe the supervisors or the people who are interviewing you do look for things that drew you to that position. I feel like highlighting that can be helpful as well. Oh, I had one more thought, it left my brain. Oh, also having like a dedicated time or to like apply for job positions can be helpful, because it can get so overwhelming and it's easy to do it all day. And there are so many positions out there, you can just sit in front of your laptop all day and keep applying. But I feel like having a dedicated time slot and also starting maybe 2 months prior to graduating can be helpful.
Yeah, I think both of those are really great advice. And I think just as aside from the international student piece, as far as like cover letters go, as somebody that has reviewed resumes and cover letters, and also that has applied to jobs, I think, of course, maybe not every employer will read in depth, but I think for me, I get a sense of who somebody is through that. So as much as kind of your own voice can come through and showcase who you are, what makes you stand out, I think is really helpful as well. And use your resources, because career services is here too and can help with those things.
Can I add one more thing?
Of course, that's why.
Because
Why you're
earlier,
here.
like Sunshine and some of the other fellow panelists also emphasized on the importance of research, right? And I think researching also, I want to encourage everyone to take a step ahead, researching during the internship. Because a lot of programs has internship, has practicum built in. Do your research to see potentially any of those might already offer those opportunity. Because if you have your internship or practicum there, the chances of you potentially staying there and getting hired is a lot more than you just went in applying new organization for an interview. So I want to actually say, take your research a step notch up and just really prepare ahead.
Thank you. I have one more question before we'll turn it over. And I'm wondering about if there were any cultural differences or things that maybe surprised you or that you were unsure about going into the job search and interview process, that maybe you would have been helpful to know beforehand, or just even how you navigated and adapted to that. If this would rings a bell for anybody of maybe something that you experienced. No? All right. Well, that's great that was not something that was a barrier to anybody in this room. I guess then I will just share from things
I do
that I've
have a
heard.
thought, but it's not really a barrier per se.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, it's just because I started working only 3 months ago, and the only thing that I really notice is that the work environment here is very, very fast paced, and sometimes you can get lost in all of the work that you have to do, and there is almost always so much work because there are always so many patients or participants or like clients that you have to see. So sometimes it's very easy to forget about self-care and just be involved in the work that you are doing. So sometimes it's very easy to forget about self-care. So taking a step back and just being there for yourself as well, I think is something I
Yeah.
remind myself often. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such good advice, and that making sure you have that work-life balance for yourself as much or however you can. And I think that makes me think of something else too, is that every workplace is going to have its own culture too. So even if it's not necessarily a cultural difference in terms of what it might have been like in your home country or their cultures you're familiar with. It could also just be a cultural adjustment from working in a new place with new people and new dynamics. And I think that goes back to what I think at least a few of our panelists said, is that when you're looking for those roles too, not only quantity, but also if you can, making sure that it's a good fit for you culturally with the workplace too. Great. Yeah, and I think just the other point about cultural adjustment as far as working goes and maybe some differences is, even if we're not naming too many here, what those could be, just with the awareness that I'm sure, just like a lot of different things that you've experienced at this point of your journey here, that it can come up, even if you've been here for a while. There's always things that can be a transition. All right, so now I guess before I turn over for our panelists, is there anything else that you want to share that you feel like you really want the group here to know before we open up to questions about your experience, advice, anything like that, or just to know about kind of you and your experience or what you're doing, so that folks in the room can ask questions as well around that?
I have one thing that I want to add, that Luna mentioned, to build connection. So I actually know my position is open from one of professors at ABA department in Chicago. So because he and his wife were moving, and I just went to his office and just complained like, okay, I'm gonna graduate in a year. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Just a lot of visa requirements that I don't know if I want to fight to get it. And he's just like, okay, I have connection. I will do everything I can to help you. So maybe talk to your professors. Maybe they have connection and they can help you connect to employers who looking for you.
Yeah, I think that's just with networking and connection in general. Sometimes although it's hard, it's definitely not my favorite thing to do, I will admit, although necessary. But the worst thing that can happen often is that you get a no, or that there are people that want to help you. And even if they don't have something materially that they can't help you with, people still are in your corner and want you to be successful. So yeah, definitely. Anything else before we turn it over to questions? I'm sure there are a lot in the room. Great. Okay. Anybody that wants to either raise their hand or unmute yourself is fine too, or put something in the chat. And I will also, while we're beginning with that, I'll look through some of the questions in the chat already that maybe have not been answered. Any questions? Okay. How long did it take you to find a job, and what websites did you use, and where did you find your job? That's an excellent question. I think we've heard, yeah, whoever wants to share what that process would look like. And I think we've heard a little bit about, Luna, what your experience has been, but I'm wondering about specifically students on OPT. I think that would be really relevant to know about.
I think I mostly used Handshake. No. Well, Handshake was one of them, but I used LinkedIn and Indeed, and I actually found my job through Indeed. But apart from that, once you start applying for jobs, at one point people also start reaching out to you, like companies and organizations start reaching out to you, which is amazing. And there were emails that I was receiving about job fairs. So that's also another way to potentially find a job.
Great.
Oh, and how long it took me? I think it took me about 2.5 months-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's another point about why, for any of you that have not applied for OPT yet, in terms of that you're not there yet in your journey, just apply as early as you can to really be able to maximize, that time and everything as well. Okay, Habobi, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep, great.
Okay, perfect. So my question is that I heard Somchart as well as Luna speak a lot about getting their jobs with nonprofits, and they connected nonprofits with the H-1B cap exempt. I was wondering if you guys could give me a little clarification about how the two of them are connected and why did both of you kind of go with nonprofits?
Do you feel comfortable answering these questions, isn't that? I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable answering things and taking it as this is an individual experience and not official immigration advice.
No, I'm just looking at it from the perspective of the visa perspective. Like, did you all have an edge when you apply to nonprofits with the cap exempt? I'm not sure. So yeah, just feel free to answer as comfortably as you all can.
I can give you an overview. So basically, H-1B has two main types, right? So the first one is lottery, and the second one is cap exempt. So for cap exempt, it is for organizations who are nonprofit, not just nonprofit. It has to be nonprofit affiliated with universities. So that's some hospitals or teaching as professors, some university offer applying for visas for us. And for me, so because I'm working at therapeutic school, because we are getting practicum for teachers and OTs and speech. So basically we are affiliated with universities. So that's why it makes us eligible for H-1B cap exempt.
Yeah, and how will be so basically the really kind of super high overview is like Samchart said, some employers are not eligible for the lottery, and that has to do somewhat around what kind of organization it is, which can be connected to a nonprofit status. But again, these details really recommend either doing research on trusted sites, and as far as policy and things go, and then connecting with either an attorney to learn more, or like Samchart said, using a lot of consults and finding out that you might actually not have to actually spend too much money on that, as long as they're trustworthy. And then also employers often will have those resources well if there's somebody that's sponsoring you. And I also saw your question as far as referring a lawyer name or resource. I don't think we can recommend individual lawyers, but one of the resources that I know is reliable is the AILA.org. It's the American Immigration Lawyers Association. And that's been recommended by other trusted officers in the field, and you can do a search there, and they have chapters also locally in Chicago and other areas throughout the country as well. Thanks. Other questions? Oh, I see more in the chat while we were chatting. What are the differences in the types of visas? So I will, and Bridget also feel free to jump in, but basically, so if you, so Bridget and I, we work in the Office of Global Engagement. We sponsor F1 visas. F1 visas are student visas, and that's what we advise around. And once a student graduates, they're eligible to have usually 12 months of work authorization through a process called OPT, optional practical training. And sometimes in the case like on Vita, if you're in a program that is considered a STEM program, there's an extension. So that's really what our office advises around. And we know though that several students, because they have professional goals to continue working in the country beyond that OPT period or just other avenues, will go to find other work authorization visas. I would say probably most commonly, or at least commonly here that we see in the case that Samchart and Luna have described, they're going the route of having an H-1B visa, which is a work visa sponsored by their employer. did you have prior experience before getting your job now? So yeah, I think that's a great question. I think everybody has experience in some way, whether you're doing things like CPT or not, but does anybody feel called to answer just kind of what your experience was and how that helped you to be prepared for the role that you're in now?
I'm gonna go. This is actually my second career. You know, before I moved to the States, I actually worked in the business field back in China. So in terms of kind of like just general interview and a lot of other things, these are not like too scary for me. But even before I start to get to my practicum stage, I get a little bit anxious because I realize all my classmates, they have relevant experience in the field of psychology, which I don't. So you know, I think it's really about, like I said, you know, start to build up that resume. You know, sometimes as international students, we can't really get a job to build that resume, right? Before you can get work authorization. So a lot of times it's volunteer. Of course, there are certain volunteer guidelines we need to adhere as international students as well. But I do want to say, you know, volunteer experience is a good way to gather that relevant experience in the field. And then, you know, you just have to really trying to combine whatever the experience you have, right? After you have those relevant experience, and then you can use your other life experience or other transferable experience and skills to really make you a strong candidate.
Yeah, and I think that last part really stands out to me is that um, even if you don't have formal work experience in your field, or you have the perception that that might be more limited than your peers, everybody has experience, whether it's from doing things informally, things that you might be doing in a volunteer role. You know, the list goes on, and really to just draw upon those strengths and experiences. And I think just as international students in general too, you have a really unique worldview that you can bring out in interviews, and also just so much strength and capital in that experience as well, of navigating the process of from applying to arriving to thriving and surviving, goes a long way. So yes. I have another question. Nalin, how do you pronounce your name?
It's Dallin. Thank you for
Nalin.
asking. Just coming back to the question about the visa. So I did my degree purely online. So I was never a student actually in Chicago. So in terms of a visa for myself, would it just be the H-1B, like because I didn't have an F1?
Yeah, so again, we can't advise too much on visa types outside of F1, but the F1 visa status is for students that are meeting certain requirements to be here in person. So if you are looking to come to the US to work, it would need to be in another visa status. H-1B is an example of that. Again, employer sponsored, so finding an employer that would sponsor that. And the process might be a little bit different from applying abroad versus while you're in the US, going through like a change of status from F1. But again, that would really be, those specific questions would be best answered from either that employer or an attorney that has expertise in those areas. But yeah, great question.
Thank you.
And I would just add, I saw that chart shared a link in here, which is great for employment-based immigrant visas. That's a Department of State website. That if you look at that, you'll get a better idea. There's literally an alphabet of visa types in the US, like A to Z, all the numbers added to each of those. There's a lot of them. And so there's ones too where, in addition to the H-1B is kind of a standard work, like employment visa to come to the US. There's some that are specific to certain countries. There's some that are specific to certain fields. There's ones that are like for special talent. I don't even remember what they're all
exemplary.
called.
I think it's
right, like exemplary. Yeah, like
yeah.
really talented and gifted in certain fields, like visas for that. So it does get really complex, but it's figuring that out. That's why it might be best to talk to an immigration attorney to see for your specific situation, is there an employment visa that would fit for you?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Bridget. Other questions from our staff on the call too, I suppose.
Would you mind if I quickly shared my screen to show Going Global?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Just so that I could, for those of you who are not familiar with the resource, because I think it's just such a great,
I would recommend personally, yes, if the staff can also give us like advice or point us in the right direction, that would be really helpful.
so I had
Around
put the-
anything in particular, how about we? Oh, sorry.
Not really, but I mean, if they give us like some dots and then one dot leads to the other one, and then you just keep joining the dots. So anything that they may have come across when they were suggesting or when they were dealing with other international students, and they found maybe this was like a particular problem, but then they circumvented those kind of issues and did it in a particular way or in a different way, just any pointers like directions that one must look at or one must not look at.
Got it. Thank you. Go for it, Elka.
Yeah, sorry. So I put the link for Going Global in the chat earlier. It's a separate platform from Handshake, but it is hidden inside of Handshake because we have a subscription to it. But this is the home page. They offer workshops on visa information. I just wanted to show you that. They have some on demand. So if you just want to get like the real fact on US work visas, or you can join this one in 2 days on strategies for getting OPT and STEM extensions and all of that. And these are all at no cost. All of this is free for you. But the other piece I wanted to show you is that there is a database that you can search by keyword or job title that will give you a list of employers in the US who have sponsored previously. So it's not a current job openings list, but it does provide you with information on employers who have hired international students in the past. And then from there, what you can do is research those employers, go directly to their website to check out what their current openings are. At least you know that they will be more open to hiring you. Other information that's on here are career guides. So they have country guides if you're planning to maybe work elsewhere. Or go back to your home country, just providing really in-depth job search resources. But they also have US city guides. So if you're looking for job search resources in Chicago or wherever else you're living, it can just be a super tool and resource outside of the others that have been mentioned in the past. So if you have any questions on it, I can drop our email in the chat. Please feel free to reach out for more information.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I just really encourage everyone again to take advantage of that because it's a really great resource that the Chicago School Career Services provides. Other questions, things we're curious about? Any final words of advice from our panelists? I know that we started off the top of that, so I think that we've covered some, but just want to make sure everything is covered while we're here. All right. Any final words from our other staff on the call?
I was just gonna say that to use the resources. I know, Havovi, you're asking like what else, like what have we seen with international students? And a lot of what has been shared here by the panelists has been my experience with students over the years that I've been working with them, that so many students I've seen get jobs through networking, getting help from their professors who are connected in the field that they're in, doing that research, figuring out which companies, like using Going Global and the link that Somchart shared to see which companies have sponsored people before on the H-1B. So really, it's a lot of work. And I think that's what everyone said too, is how you need to be persistent. You need to put in the time. And these students here, the ones that are currently working, can tell you that firsthand, that it's a lot of work. But if you just keep persisting and using all of these different tips that you're getting. See if you can get some free legal advice, you know, as they mentioned too. And I think that that can really help you. And it is a long process. And I know some of you that are here that are still current students, you have some time. You're not graduating quite yet. You know, a lot of you, I think, have at least until the spring or the summer, potentially a little bit longer. So it's good that you're thinking about this and you're coming to things like this and making these connections. So I would just say that's kind of what the advice that I can offer is to just keep reaching out to others and getting whatever help you can to help focus your search and figure it out.
No,
Yes.
I want to piggyback on what Bridget say.
Of course.
Yes, this is going to be a long process, and I want to just definitely, just piggyback on what Bridget is saying. Whenever there's like frustration or like kind of like disappointment happens, don't take it personally. You're not getting the job or you're not getting this opportunity, not because you are not good. It's just because all those other circumstances. So don't ever doubt yourself. You're gonna have that positive talk to yourself, pump yourself up. Even especially when those moments were really, really low. And if you need any guidance, and even just want someone to talk to, I can't speak on behalf of other, I can't volunteer all the other panelists, but I'm more than willing, feel free to send me an email, reach out to me. We can do a little kind of like support session, right? Because we've been through that. Definitely reach out to us. We might not be able to provide you any practical solutions, but sometimes having someone understand what you're going through is also very helpful. During my time that getting frustrated, I have a bunch of friends, they all go through that process too. They're not my major. A lot of them in the tech field, so our understanding of frustration is also different, but at least someone understand it. So finding your own support system, go through that process. I do believe when there's a will, there's a way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. And people are doing it every day right now and have before you. And so why not you too? And I so grateful for every one of our panelists that were here today that shared their experiences. I personally even just gained a lot from hearing about what those journeys have been like. And I am confident that everyone else here and that might watch it in the future as well will feel similarly. And just again, I know you all have really busy lives since you are working and doing all the other commitments in your life as well. So really thankful that you took time out today.
Add something real quick.
Yes,
to
please.
the-
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say from everything that Bridget and everyone else was saying, I feel like there are going to be a lot of hurdles throughout the journey, and it's a very hard one and it's a very long one. But I feel like if we all have made it so far, I feel like we can make it forward as well. And even though it is hard, I feel like having faith in your abilities and capabilities and everything that you have learned so far, I think that's something that helped me, knowing that I have come so far and I literally started at the very beginning, but here I am. And it helps to look back and sometimes be grateful for all of the opportunities you have had.
Beautifully said, Kavya. Thank you so much. I think that's a beautiful way to end the session, but I also, anybody else before we close out and say farewell for the evening?
Charlene, if you don't mind. Yeah, definitely. Hi, everybody. I'm Yvonne. I'm from the Community Solution System. And this is just an amazing session. It's so great to hear from all of you. Luna, definitely, I agree with everything you said. I agree with everything that all of the students said. Just getting your foot in the door, don't give up. Definitely don't give up. But yes, getting your foot in the door and just getting that interview. And I would always tell students in the past, I'd tell students, use it not as a oh, I didn't get the job, but use the interview as, hey, I got experience interviewing, so I can keep building upon and learning what the employers are asking, what they're looking for. And yeah, definitely just building your network. Don't be afraid to not only apply for those jobs that are known to H-1B sponsor or are known to sponsor, but also look at those jobs that in those areas that are not high traffic and that are not as populated, because those are those companies that, that don't have the competition that IBM or Google or, other companies have. So, looking at those small mom and pop organizations, I've had many students that have gone to those companies that have never even heard of an international student, and they get their foot in the door, and like Luna said, is they wow them just with them, and they say, okay, now what do we need to do to keep you? That has been so much. I've had companies that have never even heard of an international student or never heard of what is E-Verify, and they're like, okay, what do I need to do to sign up for E-Verify? What do I need to do? So just getting your foot in the door is going to be gold. So just keep going on. It's so funny because I've had also students that, I would always ask, how many jobs did you apply for? How many jobs did you apply for? Did you, keeping a running list of all the jobs that you've applied for, staying organized. Did you follow up? Did you do the application online or, on their application or, via a employment agency, just trying to keep yourself organized and then network to say, okay, yes, I applied at this job. Oh, you know what? Let me see where else this would have. This would have a company. And I'd even had students that would say, oh, I just went down, I just went down the alphabet and started applying at every company that had an A, that started with an A, every company that started with a B in my area, the next town, and, just, try to think outside the box when you're applying, but definitely don't give up. You all are definitely worth finding something that's gonna to fit in your bubble, but y'all did amazing, students, so, or alumni.
Thank you so much. Did you or Tanya want to share anything else about IEW again, or are we good to go?
I think we're good to go. I did drop the link to the photo contest in the chat for everybody. Really hope to see you later on this week at one of our other events. We've got some really great things coming. And thank you to our panelists today. This is really, really, it's just a really great presentation. And thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much again, everyone.
Thank
Take
you so
care.
much, everybody.
Bye.